Hello everybody, welcome to the Google Hangout on October 23rd for week 4 of the Scientific Writing Cook. This week is about citing and referencing using Refworks. My name is John Woodcock, I'm part of the library services. I presented the last week's Google Hangouts on using databases, and like I said, this week is going to be purely about using Refworks to cite and reference the references of the journal articles we got last week in our database searching. So this is very much the second half of the same coin as the previous week. The first week we looked at how to find relevant literature, good articles for our topics, our research topics. And this section is the other half, how we use those research topics, how we use those papers to be used as references and citations as part of our work. Now, throughout this week was primarily a series of short videos made by myself showing you how to get started with Refworks. So it showed you how to access Refworks through the LibGuide using that specific link on the first page, how to set up your Refworks account if you haven't already done so, but you may well have done so from the first year, where we did teach you Refworks at some point. The next few videos are all about how to use Medline and Web of Science for how to get research papers from a little search, used some examples and showed you how the different processes worked. So do remember, every bibliographic database like Medline, Embase, Web of Science will allow you to run a search and save articles from that database. Every database does the same thing, but they do them in different ways. The buttons are called different things. Medline is called export, Ovid's interface is called export, but Web of Science was called save to. Other databases may use the word save, they may use send, export, doesn't matter. It's the same thing, it's the same process. And being aware of that is going to make it much easier for you to explore the databases we have on offer, and it'll make it easier for you to use them. You'll spend less time learning on how to use them, which is good. So I have a few topics I wanted to talk about today. If you do have a question you'd like to ask me, you're welcome to do so. Please just type your question into the Q&A box. It'll pop up on my screen and I'll do my absolute best to answer it as fully as I can. In the meantime, there are some topics, like I said, there are some topics I wanted to talk about. First one is going to be talking about why we're teaching you Refworks, why we've asked you to use Refworks in the first place. We're going to compare it to EndNote as a good example of another piece of bibliographic software. I'll talk a little bit about using Google Scholar and how you can change a few settings to use Google Scholar. But I'm also going to keep in mind the information we gave you in week 3, where Google Scholar isn't the best source of information, and it's certainly not the only source of information that you can use. The last topic I'm going to talk about is going to be Refworks tips. So extra bits of information that we didn't include in the videos, either there wasn't time or other reasons. So that's going to be things like a little tool called RefGrabbit, which is about how to get information for websites, how to safely remove a citation. We talked a lot about putting a citation into a piece of work, but in this little segment near the end, we'll talk about how to remove it safely while keeping all of the formatting and all of the computer code in your document, how to remove a citation safely. I'm going to describe and point out Refworks' support for non-Roman characters. So what I mean is that characters that don't form part of the Roman alphabet. So the Roman alphabet is things like German, English, French, Spanish, the Latin languages, English to an extent, and to a certain extent other European languages. So the example I'm going to give you is some Chinese language references and citations that I'm going to have imported into my own Refworks profile, which I'll show you later. And I'll show you that the Refworks plugin for Word will also support them. Lastly, we'll talk about synchronizing our databases quickly. It's just a nice little tip to remember to do every time you insert some new references into your Refworks library. Always press sync your database to keep it up to date. So we do have a few viewers. Welcome to the Google Hangout. If you've just joined us, my name is John. I'm from Library Services, and today is going to be talking about week 4 of the Scientific Writing Cook, citing and referencing using Refworks. So the first topic today is a question we get asked quite a lot. Why am I being taught to use Refworks, and what is the differences between that and EndNote, for example? The main reason we're teaching you to use Refworks is its accessibility. Its accessibility is very good. Refworks is online. It's accessed through an internet browser, so it's accessible wherever you have a computer and an internet connection. That makes it very flexible. That makes access very flexible. You can access it at home, at a cafe, at a friend's house, your halls of residence, back home during the holidays, for instance, on your home's Wi-Fi. Even if you're overseas, if you're on holiday or working or living abroad, you can also access it there. You don't have to be on campus, and you don't have to be in the UK to use your Refworks library. Um, you can contrast this to EndNote. EndNote is a much more kind of old-fashioned traditional piece of software, and currently to use EndNote Desktop, you are restricted to the campus PCs. That means you have to be on campus. You don't have to be in a library, but you do have to be on a PC on campus, which makes it a bit less flexible. It means you have fewer options, and you've got to spend time traveling in. You've got to spend time out your day going to the campus. So that's the main contrast between Refworks and EndNote. EndNote isn't currently available remotely. So there is the global desktop, and you might see EndNote on the global desktop. This is an error. EndNote will be removed soon from global desktop, so it's best not to be relied upon. Like I said, Refworks is by far the most accessible option for undergraduate students. EndNote has a lot of extra, very deep, very granular details you can tweak and change, but that's really aimed at kind of more postgrad and aimed more for postgrads and academics who need to use more personalized aspects of EndNote. As undergraduate students, you don't need to do this. You just need to use the fairly straightforward basic functions of importing references into your Refworks library and then putting them into a piece of work. You don't need to be changing reference styles. You don't need to be sharing reference libraries so much as academics do. And for that reason, Refworks is by far the best option of the two. I think I mentioned in the previous week that there are lots of different systems available. Refworks is just one of them. And usually you are welcome to use, in essence, you are welcome to use any referencing system you like, as long as you use it consistently. The key to getting the full marks for citing and referencing and including a database and formatting, etc., is consistency. Just like with referencing styles, it's best to use one style. Find the style you've either been asked to use, which we'll look at later, or find one that suits you, suits your writing style, and use it consistently. That's the main area of marks you'll get, is a clear and consistent bibliography and a clear and consistent referencing style. If you have, if you would like to use Refworks off campus, again, you're very welcome to do so. And you're on your own personal computer, your own personal PC, that's perfectly fine. There's an extra thing you'll need to do. You'll need to make sure that you download the plugin. So there are two parts to Refworks. There's the Refworks online account, and then there is the piece of software, the plugin called Write and Cite. I'll show you how to find that Write and Cite plugin. I'll show you what to do, how to find the right version of your computer. I'm not going to go through installing it because that's pretty straightforward. You can do that on your own computer, but I'll show you what it should look like on your own Microsoft Word. So I'm just going to do that now. Here we go. So the first place I'm going to go is the trusty libguides page. Up here we have the URL libguides.kcl.ac.uk/home. This is the home page for all of our library subject guides. So you can see here on the left, we've got our academic subjects, digital humanities, music, physics. In the middle, we have life sciences and medicine. Here we can find my bioscience education libguide, to which I'll return later. But for now, I'm interested in the very first page. On the bottom right-hand side, other guides A to Z. Here's my Refworks libguide. So this libguide really is the repository of all of our experience, all of our knowledge about how to use Refworks, how you can use Refworks to export from different databases. So in the week 4's videos examples, I used Web of Science and Ovid Medline, but these are a fraction of the databases that we have to offer. You can see over here we have JSTOR, that's more kind of social science and humanities. ProQuest, again, social science, humanities, the arts. Science Direct, more focused on physical sciences like Medline and Web of Science. Scopus, again, another scientific database. These pages, these tabs will tell you the exact process you need to take with screenshots to show you how to export references from other databases. I'm not going to go through all of these today because the pages are here. You're welcome to look at them in your own time. Today, I'm looking at the Getting Started screen. And this is the link I'm looking for. Accessing Refworks and creating an account. This is the special login page, the special login link we've been given by Refworks to our accounts. I'm going to click this link. Here's my logon screen. I'm going to enter my K number and my password as if I was logging onto the computer or my email. And here's my Refworks account. So if yours is just a blank white screen, that's fine. It's waiting for you to put some references in. I was having performing an exercise earlier today. So I have 3 references, 3 Chinese language references that I've imported previously. That's perfectly fine. The first thing you need to do before you start importing references on your own PC, your own computer, is download and install Write and Cite. To do this, I'm going to go to the Tools button up at the top and click the option Write and Cite. You're going to get a little pop-up appear, that's fine. And you're going to get 2 different bits of information. The top right-hand side, we've got this code, this bit of gibberish string of numbers over here. That's important. We'll need this. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to highlight this code, right-click, and copy it. So yours will look different to mine. That's fine if it does. It's unique to every person. The next thing we're looking for is the download section underneath. So we have 2 options, Write and Cite 4 for 32-bit Word, Write and Cite 4 for 64-bit Word. So because I'm using a Windows computer, it knows I'm using a Windows computer. If you're using a Mac, if you're on a Mac Airbook or a Macintosh laptop, you will see different options. You'll see the Macintosh options. That's perfectly fine. The next thing I need to do is work out, am I using 64-bit Word or 32-bit Word? And this is really straightforward. I'm using Word 2013, but the principle should be the same. The options should look the same. To find out which version of Word I'm using, I'm going to open my Word document. Here's my Word document. This is Word 2003, don't forget. I'm going to go to File. I'm going to go down to Account. This is the Account screen. And finally, the last section I'm looking for is About Word. So if you're using an older version of Word, you might see a blue circle with a question mark in the top corner, either the top left or the top right corner. And this should perform the same function. This should do the same thing. I'm going to click this About Word. It's going to have another pop-up. And I'm looking for this very top line. It tells me what program I'm using, Microsoft Word 2013, the version 15, and the clue, the crucial tiny phrase in this whole screen of information is this 32-bit. It's much more likely you're going to be using 32-bit Office. That's by far the most common version of Word. So if you aren't sure, if you can't find exactly what version it is, go with 32-bit. It's much more likely you're using that version. I found it. I can be confident I'm going to download the right version. That's it, 32-bit. Go back to my Refworks tab, my Refworks account, and I'm going to download the 32-bit version of Word. Download the file. It should take a few minutes. It's 50 megabytes. It's not too big for modern Wi-Fi connections. Download the file and install it. Make sure to close Microsoft Word before you start installing it. Otherwise, it will not let you install it properly. So like I said, once you've found out the version of Word you have, close the Word document. There we go. Word is now closed. Now I'm able to click the version of Write and Cite I want. And it's going to start my download over here. When it's finished, I'm going to click the file, install it on my computer, and I'm ready to go. Once you've finished installing it, if you restart Word, what you should see in the pop-up screen, you should have Loading Add-ons Progress to Word appear. If it does, you can be sure it's worked well. If you don't see that or you're not sure, I recommend you restart your computer in between installing Progress to Word and then starting Word for the first time. So I've gone with Microsoft Word. I'm going to start a blank document. Here we go. Here's my blank document. And now up at the top of the screen in the tabs, I've got the tab Refworks. That's what I want to see, the Refworks tab. The first time you use it, these buttons will be grayed out and you'll see the button saying Login. Click that button. I'll give you a demonstration. Click Login. So your screen will look like this. I'm going to click Login, enter your K number, enter your password, back to your Refworks account. If you haven't already, highlight your string of text, right-click and copy, and we're going to paste into that box on the Word document. There we go. What this is doing is this is linking your online Refworks account with your the Refworks plugin in Microsoft Word. And what that means is now when we tell the Refworks plugin to look for references, it's going to look in your online account. Good. I hope if you're following along that you found that easy to follow, and I hope it was useful for you. This is also included in week four's video content, so do check back on week 4 if you haven't managed to do this just yet. You can find instructions there. Okay, so if you've just joined us, again, welcome to week 4 of the Scientific Writing Cook's Google Hangout on Friday the 23rd of October. My name is John Woodcock, I'm from Library Services, and I've been responsible for week 3 and week 4's content, both on how to use databases to build a search and how to use Refworks to put the results of that search into a piece of work to form a fully functioning essay or piece of work. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A button on the left-hand side of the screen. It will pop up on my screen, and I'll do my best to answer it as fully as I can. Thank you. So the first section was sort of describing the reasons why we teach you Refworks, why we've been using Refworks as opposed to other systems, as opposed to EndNote. And I hope that was useful. I hope that's given you more of an idea of why we've directed you to EndNote to Refworks in the first place. The second topic I wanted to bring was a question we often get asked by students, and that's namely can I use Google Scholar? Now, in week 3's content, I was fairly negative towards using Google Scholar for several good reasons. Google Scholar's coverage is not systematic. It's not as wide as other databases. It's not. Google Scholar is inclusion criteria are not set by committee. They're not set by experts. Google Scholar is an automated process, and all you need to do to have something included in Google Scholar is a file to be in a repository somewhere with the right tags. So for me, that means that there's essentially no kind of quality control. Google Scholar doesn't read through the paper to say, well, is this worth it? Is this really peer reviewed? Is it peer reviewed enough? Is the journal reputable? It's included automatically. Now, this doesn't mean that you can't use Google Scholar, but you also need to use other things alongside Google Scholar. You can't use Google Scholar by itself. To use Google Scholar with Refworks, you can have Google Scholar export citation details, and I'm going to show you how to set the special options now. There are a couple of extra steps you need to do. You can't just do it straight from a fresh version of Google Scholar. There are a couple of advanced sections you need to change, and I'll show that now. So I'm going to open a new tab in my Google browser, and I'm going to do a quick search for Google Chrome. Not Google Chrome, sorry, Google Scholar. Okay. And here we go. Here's Google Scholar. So this is great. I'm going to run my search for polymerase chain reaction. Nice, straightforward, scientific biochemical search. There we go. And you can see over here we've got this option SFX at King's full text. Because I'm on campus, Google Scholar has done this automatically. Now, this is the same as within Medline and Web of Science, where we looked before how to get the full text to a journal paper in last week's Google Hangout. The SFX button. It looks a bit different to here. This is a link. Previously, it was a button saying SFX at King's. If you're at home, or if you're away from the King's network, so you're not on the King's Wi-Fi, you're not on the King's computer, you'll have to set this up yourself. You'll have to set this up to do it automatically. To do this, I'm going to go back to my home page. I'm going to go to Settings. and I'm going to go to show links to import citations into. There we go. And I'm going to choose Refworks. So I went to Google Scholar, Settings, Bibliography Manager, show links to import citations into, and then Refworks, then to click Save. There we go. And now, run my search again. And now underneath all of the options, I now have import into Refworks alongside all of the different options under here, cited by 31. So you can see the papers that cite this paper. So for instance, Ahead ED 10 T Kundrasi 2003, cited by 31 people, cited by 7,000 people. That's fantastic. So I'm going to choose one of my options. I'm going to choose import into Refworks here, the very top option, Wilding, Cricker, 1996, cited by 500 people. That's pretty good. Import into Refworks. I'm going to have a new tab appear with my Refworks account open. Because Google Scholar and my Refworks account are open in the same browser, it should transfer the files, transfer the information very easily. And that's another kind of useful tip. If you are using a database to import references into Refworks, use the same browser. Even if it's Internet Explorer or Firefox, use the same one. So you can see that before I had my 3 Chinese language articles, now I have my English language reference at the very top. Now, because I'd set my settings to Refworks, Google Scholar had exported the information in a format that Refworks could recognize very easily. There weren't many steps. And again, this is another really useful aspect of Refworks being online. It makes it very easy for different systems to use. I'm going to take another couple of options, another couple of examples. This one, I think. There we go. And also this one. No real reason, just random. But now I have 3 English language references, and I have 3 Chinese language references. And I'm going to use these to demonstrate how to edit and manage citations later. My English language citations I'm going to place in the folder to my right, Scientific Writing Cook, alongside the Chinese language citations, to make it much more easy for me to be able to find them when I come to cite my references. So you've noticed I've ticked the first 3 options. I've ticked the English language options I want to move. I'm going to move my cursor to the middle option over here with the folder icon. It's going to have a menu appear. Might be quite small writing. I hope you can see okay. The folder's name appears here. If I click it, it knows to move those references into that folder. So now my Scientific Writing Cook folder says 6 instead of 3. It contains all of my references I've downloaded so far. So that's how to use Google Scholar to work really well with Refworks. So again, you can see that the process works a little bit differently. You can't select more than one reference at a time, like you can with Medline and Web of Science. You can't say, I want the first 5 or the first 10. But the importation function is very easy and it's very quick. So you're not losing out too much by using that import system. There we go. So I hope that was clear, and I hope that was useful. If you do like to use Google Scholar, just keep those caveats in mind. It's not systematic. Its coverage isn't as structured, and it doesn't work quite the same way. Its quality control isn't there in the same way that with the more traditional kind of databases like Medline and Web of Science. Medline has a committee of experts who decide which journals to include in its indexing. So there is a criteria. There is a robust and authoritative criteria that the journal needs to meet to be included. Whereas with Google Scholar, So like I said, it's not that you can't use it, just keep those limitations in mind when you do, and always try and use databases alongside Google Scholar. So the number of viewers is increasing, which is good. Nice sign. Welcome to the Hangout. If you've just joined us, my name's John Woodcock. I'm from Library Services. I've been responsible for the content of week 3 and week 4 of the Scientific Writing Cook, to which you've been signed up as part of the Bioscience second year cohort. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A function on the left-hand side to ask me a question. It will appear on my screen in real time, and I will do my best to answer it as fully as I can. So the first couple of sections of this Hangout have been talked about why we use Refworks, why it's so useful in your kind of context, especially to do with the kind of things you need to use from it, and also about Google Scholar. A common question we get asked at the desk, at the inquiry desk, during training sessions, can we use Google Scholar? Yes, but there are limitations. Keep them in mind. The third topic I have to talk about today is kind of hints and tips around using Refworks, some extra bits of information we either didn't or couldn't include in week 4's videos for various reasons. So I'll start with how to edit a citation, how to edit and remove a citation safely from a piece of work. Now I'm telling you this because what happens when you're using Refworks plugin, the Refworks plugin is inserting computer code into the background of your Word document. So the reason that your Word document knows how to reformat the citation style or reformat the bibliography in real time is because there is computer code being inserted into the background of your document. If you highlight a citation and just press delete, you run the risk of leaving the computer code, the residual computer code, without the text. And what you'll find is that the formatting, the ordering of your document, the citation, the bibliography might be disrupted. They might be messed up, essentially, to be more plain. And you might lose the consistency, which is the whole point of using this kind of software, is to be consistent. And you run the risk of losing marks. To make it a bit more tangible for you, you run the risk of losing marks that are easily gained by using Refworks properly. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to start my blank Word document. I'm going to populate it with some text to simulate having an essay, and then we're going to put some citations in and take them out. So here's my blank Word document. If you'd like to follow along, you're welcome to do so. First of all, I'm going to increase the text size a little bit to make it a bit more easy to see. Make sure I've got my Refworks tab selected again, and I'm going to simulate some text. I'm going to type in the following formula: equals RAND for random, open bracket, 3, 3. Oops. There we go. So this is a formula like you would use for Excel with the equal sign, but one that works in Word to generate some random text. The 3, 3 means I'm asking for 3 paragraphs of 3 sentences. I press enter, and here's my random text. So I'm gonna imagine that this is my essay. This is my 3 paragraph essay, my magnum opus that I'm going to hand in to my tutor in triumph. But first, I need to cite my sources. So I'm going to use 3 examples. I'm going to cite at the end of each paragraph, like so. Insert new. Choose the right folder, Scientific Writing Cook. And this is a good chance to demonstrate the support that Refworks will offer for non-English, non-Latin characters, non-Latin alphabets. In this example, the Chinese alphabet. So I've selected my Chinese alphabet reference. I'm going to press OK. And here we go. Here you can see it's entered the Chinese characters. It uses the Roman date, the Roman year system, but has the Chinese characters. I'm going to enter a couple more citations. So again, back up to insert citation, insert new, choose the right folder, and this time I'm going to use a Latin citation that doesn't appear yet because I have forgotten, I have neglected to do one final thing. So because I have already installed my Refworks plugin, I haven't yet synchronized my databases. What this means is whenever you add citations to a Refworks account, you need to make sure that your Refworks plugin is updated to recognize the most recent additions. And I haven't done that yet. To do that, I need to go up to sync my database up here. It's going to synchronize the data between the plugin and my online reference library. And now, when I go back to insert citation, insert new, choose the right folder, my English language, my Latin language citations have appeared in that top box. So I'm going to choose Arita, Masato Arita. The end of my second paragraph, here we go. Here's my second citation. I'm going to repeat the process for the third one. Henry Ehrlich. There we go. Perfect. So these are my 3 citations, but I realize that I have cited the third option, Ehrlich, is actually the wrong citation. I didn't want to put that one in. So instead of just highlighting it, pressing delete, I need to click inside the citation. You can see that the whole thing is highlighted at once. The whole thing goes grey at once. I need to go up to insert citation again and insert new. But this time we're going to use the edit function. We're going to use one of the edit functions. So instead of going up to the folders in the top left to choose a new citation, I am going to click compose in the compose citation window at the bottom. I'm going to choose the whole citation I'd like to remove, where it says Ehrlich, Henry A, 1989, etc., polymerase chain reaction. You can see on the right hand side there are several buttons, plus, minus, up and down. I'm going to click on the minus key, the minus button. And you can see now it says no reference selected, and it says in square brackets new reference. If I press cancel, it has not completed the process. I'm going to repeat this process. So it's not working properly for right now. I'm going to look this up and I'm going to go back to it later to demonstrate how to do this properly. Apologies if you're watching along. That isn't quite what I expected to happen. Like I said, I'm going to look this up. I'm going to come back to it and demonstrate it fully. So another topic, another useful tool we're asked about often is the Refgrabbit tool. And what this means, Refgrabbit is an extra extension or an add-in for an internet browser that again links with your Refworks account to create a web page reference automatically, or not automatically, but it sort of creates it for you. Instead of you having to go into the create manual reference folder in your Refworks account, like we looked at during week 4's video content, it will take the information for you. So instead of you have to fill in all the fields, at the click of a button, it will take the information for you and create a reference. So to find Refgrabbit, it's fairly straightforward. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to go to, there we go. I'm going to do a quick Google search for Refgrabbit. There we go. First option, second option, either of these two would be good. Download Refgrabbit for Refworks. And there are instructions here on how to find it. Make sure you have administrative rights on the laptop or computer you're using. If it's a personal computer or laptop, then that's not a problem. But if your laptop has been given to you by an organization or by King's, you may have to get an administrator to do this for you, because it does require an installation. It says Firefox and Internet Explorer here on this page. Google support is also there. It does work for Google Chrome, which I can personally recommend. It's my favorite browser. And like I said, it's like a little extension. It'll appear at the top right-hand side of your browser. Whenever you're on a web page, you click the button and it will create a reference automatically for you. It'll take the information from the website and it will create a reference. Good. I hope that was clear, and I hope you found that useful, especially if you are going to be referencing a lot of web pages. It'll save you a great deal of time. You won't have to create the references manually. You can do just use that extension and create them automatically. So we looked at how to remove a citation. It didn't work quite as I planned. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to quickly look up the solution and hopefully be able to demonstrate it for you before the end of the Hangout. So I appreciate your patience. Like I said, if you are new to the podcast, new to the Hangout, use the Q&A button on the left-hand side, post a question on my screen, and I'll do my best to answer it as fully as I can. Thank you. So let's see what it says. I'm going to share the screen. There we go. Okay, well, the solutions I found online don't seem to be working for me. Maybe that's using a different version of Writer Site. I'm using Writer Site 4, this is Writer Site 3. I think this is going to be. I'm going to need to go and sort of research this. I'm going to post an update later on. If you are looking to delete a citation, or you are interested in deleting some citations, and you haven't found it by the time I update it, then you're welcome to use that updated information that I'll post on this Hangouts page later next week when I've found out how to do it. So the last thing we need to do, of course, is insert our bibliography. Make sure you press enter to the end of your page, to the very end of your document. I'm going to go to bibliography options in the top left and then insert bibliography. So you can see here that I've only cited 2 individual items. I've cited Arita et al. Twice, my Chinese language paper once, and they both appear here. And here again, you can see the excellent support that Refworks has for non-English and non-Latin language characters. One thing I would say is if you would like to include non-English papers, especially, this is especially true for any papers not in the English language, to check in with your tutor first and make sure they're okay with it. I would say it's unlikely they'll accept it, but make sure you check with them first. It really is up to them. You're welcome to use Chinese language papers for your own knowledge, your own reference, but if you're going to be writing essays, do check with the academic involved, because to them whether they can read it or not. Here we go. So I like to change my style. To do so, I'm going to click on the style button at the top left corner. My default style appearing as Chicago 16th edition. That's not the one I want to use. I want to use the King's BioSci edition, the one that library services have set up for biological sciences students. To find this, I'm going to go to Select Other Style. Now what I'm looking for is this one here, Author Date King's Bias I Ed. Now because I've used it previously, it's appearing in my Available Styles option. Here it is in my favorites, that's fine. So I'm going to click on King's Author Date Bias I Ed, and I'm going to click Save. And here it appears now in my list, Author Date King's Bias I Ed. And you should have seen the citations have changed slightly, the format's changed a little bit. Commas have been put in, some of the numbers are bold. But it's done that in real time. It's updated it as you change the option. If you don't see this style in your available styles or your favorites list, I'm going to show you how you can find it now. Bear in mind this is also part of week 4's video content. It's very straightforward. I need to go back to my Refworks account. Here it is. I need to go to Bibliography and then Output Style Manager. So it's going to show me all of the output styles that we have access to at King's. We have access to over 6,000 individual output styles. Some of them are very general, some of them are very specific to a particular journal or even a particular department. But you should have been told, you should be aware of the styles you need to use. And the main styles you've been asked to use are either author date, King's, bias I Ed, or numbered. Numbered being a Vancouver style. If you need to find these styles in the Output Style Manager, you can go over here. I'm just going to type in ISI and then search. Nope, no good. ISI, that's it, there we go. ISI, 2 separate words, I'm going to press search. So because author date King's bias I already appears in my favorites list, it doesn't appear over here. You should see this, you should see these 2 styles. These are the 2 styles you've been asked to choose from. I'm going to add them both to my favorites list like this. There we go. Now they appear on the right hand side. Make sure the styles you want to use appear on the right hand side. Once they do, you can close the window. That's perfectly fine. Go back to your Word document. Again, sync my databases just to make sure that the plugin is updated to the online account. You might still not see them in the drop-down menu. That's fine. I'd like to use the numbered King's Bias I Ed style. I need to go back to Select Other Style, choose my favorites because that's the group I added it to. And now I'm going to go to numbered King's Bias I Ed and click Save. And you should see in your text, instead of author dates and instead of the author surname and the year appearing as the in-text citation, now we have numbers in brackets. And this is what's called a Vancouver style or a numbered style. Numbered styles are often preferred because the citations don't contribute to the word count. So when you only have 4 or 5 citations, it doesn't make that much of a difference. But for bigger pieces of work and longer pieces of work, then it can make quite a bit of difference. Be clear with your tutor which style you've been asked to use. If they're not fussed, choose one and use it consistently. That's the key thing, is consistency. And that's what these styles have been created for you. That's why they've been created for you, to help you use them consistently. Okay. So those are the topics I wanted to bring to the Hangout today. Why we use Refworks? Because it's so accessible, essentially. You can access it anywhere you need to, in a cafe, anywhere you have an internet connection home, a cafe, halls of residence. You don't have to be on campus. You don't have to be in a library to do this. I showed you how to find the plugin, how to find Write and Cite the plugin. It's very straightforward. Make sure you have administrative rights to your computer. And by that I mean, if it's your own computer that you bought, you do already, that's fine. If your PC was given to you by someone, by King's, another organization, you might not, and you'll have to check with that organization. We talked about Google Scholar, sorry. Google Scholar quickly. How to set the settings to export to Refworks very easily. So it doesn't work the same way as Medline and Web of Science. It will not let you select lots of groups of references, but the import function is very quick and very straightforward. And like I said, make sure you've got Google Scholar open in the same browser as you do your Refworks account. That will make it much quicker, it'll make it much easier. We've also looked at different tips for using Refworks. We looked quickly at removing a citation. It didn't work quite as how I wanted, so I'm going to update this page next week with instructions on how to do that safely. Because like I said, just highlighting and deleting the citation is going to leave the computer code in your document and it's going to affect the formatting. So there is a proper method. I'm going to find out what it is. I'm going to come back and tell you. We talked briefly about RefGrabbit. We talked about what it can do. RefGrabbit is a tool for an internet browser. It's a plugin for an internet browser. What it'll do is when you're reading a web page, like a newspaper article, a news story, and you click the extension, you click the button, it will take the pertinent information from that web page and it will construct a reference for you. It'll package it into a reference automatically at the click of a button. So if you're not confident in creating manual references, which is one of the videos in week 4 of this Kook, then you can try that instead. And it works. There's support for Internet Explorer, Firefox, and Google Chrome. Just do a quick Google search for RefGrabbit. It's free. Like I said, a single click and it'll create a reference from a web page for you. So that's a good tool to use if you think you're going to use a lot of web pages, or you're not a fan of creating web page references manually. That's perfectly fine. We looked at how Refworks can support non-English, non-Latin language characters, and our example we used was Chinese. It supports Chinese language characters very well. There are certain databases you can use to get Chinese references. CNKI is a good example, and you can export references very easily to Refworks, and it will recognize and support the Chinese characters. And we looked briefly at that sync my database button. That button is incredibly important, especially if you have Refworks open over a long period of time and you're continually importing references into Refworks. To keep your plugin up to date, click sync by database. I'm going to show you what that one is just again. There we go. So back to my Word document. Here's my text, here are my citations, here's my bibliography. That's all great. Middle of the screen, making sure we have our Refworks tab selected. Middle of the screen, sync my database. And what this means is now your plugin will recognize when you've added more citations, more references to your Refworks account. Until you do this, it won't know that. It won't realize you've added anything new, and it will only show you the old references. So we're nearing the end of the Hangout. If you've just joined us, welcome to the Hangout. This is October 23rd, week 4 of the Scientific Writing Kook, all about citing and referencing using Refworks. The idea is to get you using Refworks with confidence, importing references from any database you're using, and then using them to back up the writing, to cite in your work, to back up the points you're making as part of your academic production, your academic work. If you have any questions, you're welcome to use the Q&A buttons on the left-hand side. The question will pop up on my screen, and I'll do my absolute best to answer it as fully as I can. We only have a few minutes left, so feel free to take time to ask your questions. If there aren't any questions by 5:02, we'll draw it to a close. All of my topics have been covered. If you have been watching, thank you, and I hope you find this useful in future. just want to look up this pesky how to delete a reference, how to delete citation, right and cites. I was convinced I had it there. There we go. Aha, so it has changed. So before, I made the point of saying that you shouldn't just highlight a citation and press delete and backspace because it will leave the code. And that was true for older versions of Write and Cite. We're using Write and Cite 4, where this is the case. This is how you delete a citation. So I'm going to demonstrate this now. I'm going to go back to my document with my text and my bibliography. There we go. I'm going to highlight my citation number 1, which is my Chinese language citation. And I'm just going to press delete. Make sure the whole thing's been taken away. Now when I click back on that section of my document, nothing appears, and there's no grey selected, so the citation has been removed. I'm going to go to reapply output style. Now it's going to re-update my document with my new, it's going to reorder my citations. It's renumbered my citations because it's realized I have deleted a citation. That's really good. That's really straightforward. I'm glad they've done that because it was a bit of a production in previous versions. You had to go into edit and click the minus key and save your document and reopen the document. So I'm really pleased that's the case. They've changed that. So once again, you select the citation you want. Make sure it's grey. Make sure the whole citation has been chosen and it's gone grey. And then I'm just going to press delete on my keyboard. I'm going to delete all of the full stop, everything associated with that citation, all of the brackets, all of the full stops. Delete a few times. Make sure it's been taken out. So the bibliographic references left in my document, that's fine. I'm going to update my document. I'm going to refresh my document by clicking on reapply output style over here. Good. So it hasn't re-added my my citation. So there's still one instance of my citation left. I'm going to delete this one as well. There we go. I'm going to go to reapply output style. And now it knows that there are no more citations. It's taken all of my references out. It's left the phrase reference list. That's fine. Can delete that as well. And there we go. Brilliant. Okay, good. So that's a new update for Write and Cite 4. I'm pleased with that because that makes it much more easy to delete a citation you don't need. That's very straightforward. Okay. Okay, well, that's our hangout for today. If you've joined us and you've watched all the way through, thank you very much. Thanks for joining us. You're welcome to view this later on. This will be saved on YouTube, and this will be saved as part of the Kooks content page on Keats. My contact details are on the page. My team's contact details are on the page. If you do have any questions, come to an inquiry desk. My inquiries colleagues can help with Refworks problems. If they can't, they'll get in touch with me and my colleagues to help you further. So thanks very much.